This is a brilliant, wild game played between D Gukesh with white and Pragnananda playing black. It's the Tata Steel Masters, so back in January 2023, and here we see Gukesh bring this awesome opening prep. So let's see what happened. We get an English on the board, symmetrical variation, all four knights now develop, and we see d4, Gukesh takes the centre. That pawn is captured, the knight takes back, and now e6 prepares to develop the bishop, very often to b4, and so Gukesh prevents that. He wants to keep this knight, which keeps an eye on d5, e4 as well, and after bishop e7, e4, castles, we now see knight to f3. And again, it's all geared up to preventing black from playing d5 in too much of an easy manner. You know, now you've opened up the queen to look at that square. So we get queen a5 now from Pragg. So he's pinning this knight, threatening to take the e-pawn. So the bishop breaks the pin, and now the queen ducks away to h5, comes away from this x-ray attack. And now if you played a standard looking move here, like bishop to e2, well then black can actually play this pawn to d5 push. And this is a sample line. These are like the top engine moves. And basically black's just equalizing, you know, play a couple more through. Very, very equal, very dry. So coming back here, what does Gukesh do to mix things up? Well, he plays the excellent rook to g1. Now, how can we say a move with a question mark is excellent? Well, this is like gold dust at the Super GM level, right? Because it sheds about 3/4 of a pawn advantage. But it's not so simple as to find the path through for how to keep the advantage for black. So these are the kind of ideas they love. Now this was actually played by Anish Giri against none other than Yan Nepomniachtchi, world championship contender right now, right? In an online game, I think it was. Sorry, phone going off. That's my dinner ready. Put that on silent. The things I do for this channel, right? Sacrificing dinner. Anyway, so this was played by Giri online, so not the first time to be played, but a really aggressive idea, because after d5 played, which is the best move, we now get g4 coming in response. Now what's the idea? Well, if you run away with the queen, it's actually going to get checkmated. This knight can hop, attack, and there's no squares for it to go to. So you really have to take this pawn with the knight. That's what happened. Now we see takes on d5, and this is one of the key ideas. You've decoyed the knight away from the defense of this pawn, and so you can pick up the center, plus you've opened the g-file, but let's not forget, black's already castled, white is not, so this is dangerous as well for white. And bishop c5 is a great move. So that piece was pressured by the knight, threatening to take with check. You can see the attacks that this now creates on f2, plus let's note that the e-file has now been cleared, could be relevant later on. And now if you want to pause here and try and find the best defensive move for white, then please do so, because it's a stunning idea. Gukesh finds it, he's still in his prep here. So the way to go is not something like rook g2, bit passive, but actually queen e2. Now how is this playable? Because it looks like black can still take here with check. But then the trick is you take with the queen, after the knight recaptures, well you've just opened that g-file and bang, we check with the knight using the pin, then pick up the queen, and long story short, this is better for white. You know, you can even crash through here, and white is a minor piece ahead. Really nice tactics. So we didn't see takes on f2. Instead, f5 was played by Pragg. Brilliant move. So there's no more knight f6 ideas in the air, because now the rook covers that square, and there's also these ideas to try and rip open the e-file, take advantage of the queen sitting in front of the king. So what does Gukesh do? Well, he does not take that pawn, of course. Instead, he goes knight f4, best move, picks up the tempo on the queen, it drops back to f7, and now here the best move is actually castles, giving this pawn if black wants to take it, because then apparently queen b5 is good, hitting this bishop. I mean, there's some real ninja computer stuff going on, right? But what Gukesh plays is rook g2. Very human move, protecting this pawn, but it does give Pragg an opportunity to get an advantage, but not easy to see either. So the best move is takes on e4. Now it does activate all the pieces and everything like that, looks nice, but then knight g5 comes, you hit the queen, and you hit that knight on g4 as I'm highlighting there. So queen f5 is best to cover the knight and cover this pawn, but then there's this rook takes, and not queen takes on g4, queen c4 check, hitting this bishop. And after the king goes, you take the bishop, hit the rook, but apparently rook f5 leaves black with advantage, hitting these two, and the line goes like this, you know, just some crazy stuff. So I can understand why Pragg didn't take here, calculate all of that out to its depths. Instead, he goes for this queen e7, so he covers that knight g5 hop, also hits the pawn on e4, but now Gukesh finds an excellent move through the complicated position. He goes pawn to e5, and the reason this is so good is that although it gives a pawn which Pragg takes, you've just closed down a lot of those lines of attack. And now when you castle the king, which was played, suddenly all the white pieces are firing into the game. Now bishop d6 was played. Good move because it eyes this knight here. And so after bishop c3, which Gukesh played, you know, this is an undefended piece now. But the bishop does sit well on that square. It was the top move, eyeing the king now in combination with the rook. h3 is on the cards. So what does Pragg do? Well, he takes action, takes on f3. The queen recaptures, covers the knight here, and now the final piece joins the game with bishop to e6, but it gave Gukesh a good opportunity here to get a big advantage. He could have taken on e6, queen recaptures, and then go pawn to h3. Now after the knight drops back, this is the top line, you can then take on b7, and it's not just about pawn grabbing. You're threatening checkmate, and it's not easy to cover. You know, if you go with the rook, well then you drop this one here. If you go with the queen, well then you're dropping this one here, or you can go bishop c4, deflect the queen, then give checkmate, that kind of thing. And if instead of doing any of that, you go g6, well then you can simply chop the knight, still the rook can't recapture or you lose here, and so after queen goes, you can go check, king sidesteps, and you pick up the bishop. So a lot of lines there, but the point being, if you take here on e6, it's good for white, winning advantage. But what we see in the game is the immediate h3, and it gave Pragg a chance to chop on f4 with check. After the queen recaptures, you've eliminated that powerful piece, and then you can drop back here, you blunt out the bishop, white remains a little bit better with rook to e1, but okay, you're back in the game, you're not getting annihilated. But what we see Pragg do is go for bishop e5, a tactical idea, but a bad one. The tactics are not working here, because Gukesh, he now takes on e6, he's also threatening the rook. So the queen recaptures, best move, but now you can take on g4, you simply won a piece. What's Pragg's idea? Well, he takes on c3, he's shattering the king position, and this is what he was hoping for, this big attack against Gukesh's king. Now you can't take with the queen, or you run into rook a to c8, or one of the rooks, losing your queen. So the pawn recaptures, but now there's a problem. Say you go queen a2, immediately looking to invade, well then there's this check, this annoying diagonal open to the king. You're forcing the queens off, no good for black, you're trying to attack. So instead, the rook comes to d file, covers this idea, but now you can take here, it's the top engine move, but Gukesh goes for the second top move, takes this pawn, and this is perhaps what Pragg missed. Because now, again, if he goes queen a2, there's a problem. And this one's really beautiful. If you want to try and pause and find the best move, then feel free to do so. It's the only winning move in the position here. So the way to play is with rook takes on g7, crashing through to the king. Because after the king recaptures, you check from g3, and wherever the king goes, it's dead basically. So if it comes to f7, you check down here, and then you win this rook. And basically the checks against the white king run out, by the way. You know, it always just kind of snakes away over to the king side. There's nothing you can do. This is overwhelming material and attack. And coming back here, if instead of the king marching over to f7, it jumps back here, well then you can check from e5. This is how the line goes, and bishop c4 check is really beautiful. Forces the queen to capture, and you just cleared the rook to now come to the g file. So this is mate, and that's how you deliver it on the spot. So some long lines, but this is why you cannot go queen a2. No good, you crash through here with these mating ideas. So instead we see captures. The queen takes back. Now the invasion occurs, but it's just not working. Bishop d3, defensive maneuvers being taken. Now you can take with check, but first Pragg, he cuts that e-file. He wants to stop the king from running away. Rook g4 played, threatening bishop c4 check, winning the queen. So we see takes on a3, the king runs away, check, queen c2, and now queen b6. You don't want to trade queens, and this pawn on f2 is now attacked. So queen a2 check played, the king sidestepped, rook d4 intercepts this queen's attack, and that's why we see the check swinging over from the h-file. King c2, queen h2 hits the pawn again. Now queen f7, Gukesh goes on the offensive, ignores the fact that this pawn is dropping because his attack is now hugely overwhelming. The bishop joins the party, the rook has to move, and now here the queen just nudges over, threatens rook d8 check and mate after the queen recaptures. So that's why h5 gives the king room, but after queen g5, again threatening mate, the queen covers, rook h4 threatening the same. These checks were played, they now run out because there's no further checks, and here we see resignation from Pragg. So Gukesh is truly a remarkable player, and if you want to see another amazing game played by him, then check out the video on screen. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you soon.